This episode is sponsored by Living Realms. Ports basically so many awesome games. They're also the shop that is going to be doing the calling in Birmingham. How cool is that? So these guys are going to be running the calling over in Birmingham in the NEC. Worth checking out. Go get yourself registered. They also do Outsiders as well, which is coming out very soon, and they've got literally 4% off if you buy 2. If you're a Push the Point patron, that's an additional 5% off as well. So it's well worth going through their site if you are a patron and checking it out. So we've got callings, they've got loads of products. What's the problem? Go check them out. Hey everybody, welcome back to another awesome episode of Push the Point, where we have done a really cool interview with Daniel, Yorgos and Fano. Go check that out, where we could talk about through the whole set of Outsiders. Now, we're going to go through a deck tech of each individual hero. So Yorgos has done Riptide. Daniel here is doing Azalea, and Fano is going to be doing Azure. But Daniel is a very accomplished deck builder with his teammates from Sunflower Samurais, who has some of the players you may know as Pablo. Obviously, Pro Tour champion #1, and Daniel is his teammate as well. But he is the brains of all the deck building. One of the brains.
One of the brains.
One of the brains of the deck building process that this team goes through. And I've had the pleasure of hanging out with him, and he is a really, really cool deck builder. So getting him to work out with Yorgos and Samurai, Yorgos and Fano. Over the shop today. These new heroes from Outsiders. Dude, thank you so much for coming on. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm quite happy to be here again.
Yes.
I like hanging out with you, so
real.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. The last time we met up, it was Riptide. God, I'm all over the shop. Reinhard deck tech. We had a Reinhard deck tech, and it was really cool, well received. Even I just look at the deck and I think this is solid. I've been playing with that the whole time, so I'm hoping I can do this again when we pick up Azalea. But let's go through to the deck. Right, Azalea Ace in the hole, man. Now, your takes on the upgrades that she's gotten from this set, right? She's always been known as that hero that is just a bit. She's all right. She could slam some aggro decks with the classic red in the ledger, pump, dominate effects. But how much has Outsiders really pushed her to be a bit more competitive?
First of all, what I want to say is that if you include like 20 new cards in a deck, that says that the deck has improved a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, at the end, it's all about numbers. I think that the new cards from Outsiders basically increase the amount of value of the cards. So in general, now Azalea doesn't need to do strange things during the game to do a big amount of damage. So maybe now it's easier to switch with these two modes of dominate or just flat damage. And all the Bloodroth box cards and on the new neutral card Premeditate allows you to do a big amount of damage with basically using the same tools you had in the past.
Awesome.
So in general, I think that the deck has gained a lot of on-hit effects and has increased the amount of damage he can do during the turn. She can do during the turn.
Awesome. So she is a bit of a classic, but if someone is new, basically you put the card from Arsenal to the bottom of your deck, and if you do, put the top card on top of your deck, and if it's an arrow, gains dominate. So there's a lot of preparation and sometimes a little bit of opting, foresighting that you need to do with Azalea. And before in the past it was a little bit clunky, but now with a few more tools, actually her ability, is it definitely just now workable a lot more with the new cards, or do you still sometimes feel like the ability can be slightly clunky sometimes? Or
no, now it's easier to trigger because there are the card we mentioned before that it was Premeditate is the new neutral card that gives the next action that comes from the arsenal a +3.
Mm-hmm.
And if when one action hits its turn, it doesn't to be necessary that card. You create a Pounder token
Mhm.
So it's easier to have an arsenal card nowadays, and it's easier to trigger cards like Skullbone Crosswrap. That is one of the key cards of the deck. It's a helmet that allows you to opt one when you turn a card face up from face down from your arsenal.
Yeah.
So now it's in that specific case, it's easier to look at the top card of your deck, prepare a dominate attack, and there is a new arrow that had been added that is Spire Sniping.
Oh,
Uh,
spire sniping. Yes.
Spire Sniping, we have it here in the blue and the red version,
Yeah.
and it's a card that when it's turned face up or put in the arsenal, that says that if you put it with the bow, with the death dealer,
Yeah.
or you turn it face up with your head, with your helmet, you just look at the top two cards of your deck and you can put it back in any order. So these two additions make easier to do Azalea and do a dominate attack. You don't need to do it blindly. You can just prepare a big turn without doing setup. You can do it just naturally.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. So what we'll do is we'll go through the equipment. We've obviously went through one or two of the cards that is in the deck, but we'll explain a little bit about the sort of core equipment that you tend to always use with her on generally most matchups, and then we'll go through the sideboard cards that you've got in there. We'll do that later on. So I really would love to start with the new Azalea specialization token quiver equipment. Quivers are obviously a brand new thing that's came out in Outsiders, the Crow's Nest. So whenever an arrow is put face up into your arsenal, which is basically Azalea's ability, you may pay 1, and if you do, you can put a name counter on it. How much has this card impacted in total, or this deck, or in general?
Yeah, the first time I saw this card, I was like, this is absolutely crazy because you're including a big pool of cards that couldn't be used before. That is all these aim counter mechanics. But as long as I have been trying these new cards, I just saw that Crow's Nest works more like a support strategy more than a focus strategy. You don't need to put in your deck a lot of arrows that work with aim counters. You can use it like maybe 1 or twice during the game, and that may be enough. It's at the end, it's a free card because you worked with 5 equipments before this expansion, and now you have 6. So it's like you're sacrificing 1 slot in your deck for a free effect during the round. So definitely, it's a card that's really worth it. And if you would like to build more around this card, I think that you should add more blue cards in your deck because a big amount of arrows require 1 pitch for adding the encounter and 1 pitch for using them. So at the end, it's pitch in blue. It's quite necessary if you want to add these arrows, but it's not the specific situation in this list.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. And then you've got the old classic Death Dealer. I mean, if you played Azalea or pretty much most Rangers, unless you're Lexi, obviously with Voltaire, Death Dealer is your go-to arrow. Pitching 1 to put a card in and draw a card. Great. I mean, hard to beat, right?
Yeah, this card is just insane. But the problem Nathalie had is that she doesn't have an appropriate pool to play it, but this weapon is quite good. It's one of the best weapons of the game. Drawing 1 card each round is just insane.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've also gone with the Bullseye Braces as the main one. Now with Yorgos's one, he went with the arm piece that blocks and does the damage. I can't remember the name of it. So, but you went with Bullseye Braces. How come?
Yeah, it's a free 1 Arcane Barrier, which is quite good because you don't have to use slots in your deck to prepare against arcane damage matchups, such as the Rune Blades, Icelander, Kano. And on the other hand, there are not that many ways to have Go Again in this deck. We have only the 3 different colors of Bolton shots. But if you have Go Again, it's an easy way to use 2 arrows in 1 turn. That may be relevant if you are playing with Ring Racers that we are doing actually. So I think the combination with Bolton Shot with Bullseye can enable really cool plays.
Yeah.
And at the end, it's an arms that allows like 5 damage or something like that. I will pay in any other class for 5 block, 5 value bracers. So I think this card is quite good, and it's common.
Yeah.
That it's quite cheap, as almost all the cards and equipments in this deck.
Oh, that's good to hear, especially if you're a new starting Azalea player, and obviously Snapdragon Scalers. I mean, you'll probably see this in quite a lot of aggressive sort of heroes, but or just low cost hero stuff. But basically, the next card that costs 1 or less, attack action card with 1 or less, gains go again. You know, you can give your card go again.
It combines quite well with Bullseye. So it's like when you're running Bullseye, obviously you're going to you wouldn't run Snapdragons if you're not running Bullseye.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So let's go with one of the. We're going to go down the legendary equipment now. So Skullbone cross wraps. How important is you've got new Horizons. You've got Crown of Dominion. You got Crown of Providence. Or I don't know why I say Crown of Dominion, but Crown of Providence. Why this card?
This card is in the same way as I said with Bullseye, is a free Arcane Barrier, so you don't have to spend slots in your deck using Arcane Barrier, and it's an enabler of Azalea. It's quite important. I mean, the main mechanic, if you want to play Dominate, is just putting 1 card in your arsenal, and then on the next round, it's likely to have one buffs with an arrow on the top of your deck and use it with Dominate. So this card it's a must-have if you want to play this deck, because it's the way to beat defensive decks that they want to block with the full hand and maybe swing with the hammer or something like that. It's a way to push damage.
Yeah.
So if you want to play that Dominate side of Azalea, you need this helmet so far.
Okay, brill. And then we've obviously got the old classic, and probably and it is quite an expensive card, but in my opinion, a card that you must pick up because it's in quite a lot of heroes, and it's going to be a card that's going to be able to keep going with your collection. Let's find out Spring Tunic. If you've played Flesh and Blood, you probably know what this card is, but how important is this card in Azalea?
It's quite relevant because in this specific list, we have only 9 blues in the deck, because in general we don't need to spend that much money during the round. But Findle Spring Tunic is a card that can enable turns when you only draw red cards, and there is a way to use the Death Dealer for free with the Findle Spring Tunic, so that can make a lot of value every 3 turns. And it's also a way to make numbers with those cards that cost 1, maybe with Death Eye or any other arrows. It's a way to just use the buffs, and with the Tunic, just throw the arrow you have in your arsenal. Yeah. You don't necessarily need to do Azalea, but maybe if you keep 1 arrow from the last round, it's a way to push damage without spending cards. It's like the premium turns we have.
So what I want to ask is, if you were going to be picking up Azalea, obviously you got Find Out Spring Tunic and Skullbone Crossroad. They're both legendaries. Which one of those would you say is kind of a priority pickup first? If you were just going to, if there was one expensive card you had to quickly grab, which one would you say you had to pick up?
If you're going to be focused strictly on Azalea, I will pick the Skullbone Crosswrap.
Yeah.
Because it's a part of the hero. It's something you need to control to do all the mechanics that the hero offers to the player.
Yeah.
But if you want to keep playing the game, I will strongly recommend picking the Findle Spring Tunic, because it's a card that you will play in any other deck. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. But just in case that you can grab those 2, I would say getting Skullbone Crosswraps is really one of the big first pushes to go and get. I think Spring Tunic is definitely going to be that competitive edge. There are some, and it's not as good, obviously, but there are some workarounds you could do with the chess piece, and it will probably make the deck still be able to do what it needs to do, but not as efficiently. as Spring Tunic can obviously make it. But again, if you don't have a Skullbone Crossroads, I think your blind Azalea is not fun.
Yeah,
blind Azalea is rough.
At the end, there are some legendaries that are basically made to work with one mechanic. And the same way you cannot play Riptide with the pirate chess at some point.
Yeah.
If you want to play those defensive stuffs, it's like a mechanic enabler.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Right, let's get on to the main board. So with your decks, you've got all the rainbow colors of Bolt and Shot and Drill Shot, and I think, of course, you've got Red and the Ledger and Remorseless as well. So in terms of the arrows, your main board that doesn't ever come out, as well as Infecting Shot, probably it is close, if not. I know Red and Ledger is the best, one of the most crackers cards in the game, but Infecting Shot has got to be quite literally one of the best arrows in Ranger. So overall, so I'm not surprised to see that in there. But let's break this down a bit. All 9 bolt and shots. How come?
Yeah, all 9 bolt and shots are there because in general the deck works really well with yellow cards. If you want to just pitch for the Death Dealer and then you want to throw the arrow, you want to use it to attack. In general, red bolt and shot is a really good card for 0 because it goes for 4, and if it has a bonus, you can just reload and do another attack. But the rest of the bolt and shots, the yellow and the blue ones, you basically want to pitch it to do pitch a stack with Ring Razors and try to do a big turn, doing 2 or maybe 3 arrows in one turn. So it's like a late game strategy if you want to keep them running the deck. So, and yeah, obviously there is they have a really strong combination with Bullseye Bracers, so it blocks for 3, so it's one of the best arrows so far.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Drill Shot as well. I mean, I'm seeing Drill Shot, and then if there's a Ranger, there's a Drill Shot, right? 0 for 4, piercing 1. So you can't even throw armor at it and be satisfied. And if it hits, it just takes a piece of armor off. Man, this card is crazy. So, I mean, I've obviously just spelled out why you should put it in, but is that pretty much summarized it up a little bit?
The card is just insane. It's just absolutely insane. And also we will talk about that later, but it has a really stupid combination with Codex of Frailty. We will talk about that later.
Okay, well, yeah.
But yeah, it's a card that basically it's a 4/4/0, but it's not only that, because if your opponents block with a 2-block Battleborn, I believe it's Battleborn.
Yeah.
Battleborn equipment, you can just put 1 counter on it, and then at the end of the combat chain, the equipment breaks because it goes to 0. So maybe really good if you're playing against the ice shields from Olhim and those kind of equipments.
You just don't put armor. You just don't put armor in front of this thing, do you? If you see this, you just go, "Oh, I'm throwing my hand at this." So yeah, no, absolutely crazy card. Infecting Shot. Again, this is if you've seen the Yorgos deck tech, he will explain why this card is just crazy. So yeah, give me your reasons why it's crazy in Azalea.
No, it's 7 for 1. What else do we have to say about this card? Now, but if it has an encounter that is not that hard, it's even bigger. It's a flexible card that you can mix with other effects such as Deadeye, and yeah, it's not only a card that has a lot of value. It's a card that you can combine with other cards to do a really strong turn. So this card is maybe the best arrow in the set.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what Yorgos was saying as well for Riptide. And then we got Red and Ledger. I mean, come on. Does this card need explaining? This card is broken. If it hits, you only have 1. You can play 1 thing. That's it. I mean, come on.
The card is just, when you're playing against aggro and you say, okay, we're trading lives, and then you say, okay, now it's a Red in the Ledger turn. And your opponent say, okay, I've lost this game. How much value does this card have? It's just insane.
It is just insane.
And obviously, if you combine it with Seek and Destroy or cards that deny the arsenal, or it's just too good.
It's just too good. It is just too good. And remorseless as well. A card that I do see quite often. It's got a heap of text on it. I think the main reason you put this in, I assume, is because of the second line of text saying, whenever they play an action, they lose health, right? Or is there something more to it?
Yeah, but the first part is quite important too, because if you're playing with Dominate, with Azalea, denying the possibility of using a defense reaction is quite good. If your opponent has a defense reaction on the arsenal and he has a lot of cards he wants to play on his turn, the thing is that you're not only doing a dominate attack with a lot of damage. If he wants to play the cards, he has to spend 1 life, and you're blocking the arsenal. So in that specific case, if your opponent has a defense reaction there, you're having tons of value of this card. Maybe quite important if you're playing against all him and you think that they have Sin Below or those kind of defense reactions on the arsenal.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that's pretty much your main. Oh no, yeah. Oh god, I missed this one. Spire sniping, but we kind of went through that, right? The reds and the blues. It kind of function. It works in Azalea's advantage to putting a card in. It's sorting out the top of the deck for the dominate, and you've also got the reds in there as well. So is it just because of the opting? I do finger quotes.
It's not opting because you cannot put it on the bottom of the deck, but yeah, it's a card that enables a dominate play with Death Dealer, because generally when you want to know what do you have in the top of your deck, you're going to put your face down card face up. And then as long as you know that you have an arrow on the top of your deck, you're going to use Azalea. But this card is like you play the Death Dealer, you put the arrow on the arsenal, and then after drawing 1 card, let's say you don't know what you are going to draw. The effect triggers after you play the Death Dealer completely. You draw 1 card and then you look at the top 2 cards of your deck.
I was curious about that.
And you can swap it with Azalea and do 1 dominate attack. So it's a card that enables that kind of plays without having arsenal, basically. Cool. And it's a 5 arrow for 1, so that's the reason why I run it in red.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Okay, let's go through the we'll go through the pump cards. When I say the pump cards, the ones that just push the damage up, basically. So we've got Lace with Blood Rot, Premeditate, and Read the Glide Path. Now, and Deadeye. We've got Deadeye as well.
And Rain Razors.
And Rain Razors. I look at that as like some sort of, I suppose that's the same thing, but that feels like an attack reaction, but it's not, right?
Yeah, it's an instant. It's weird.
Yeah, it's a weird one. But let's do the non-attack pump effects, right? And then I suppose we'll throw Rain Razors in there as well. Lace with Blood Rot, 0 get +3 damage, and if the next card hits, they get Blood Rot. I mean, that just sounds like if this hits, it's 0 for 5. It's pretty.
Same reasoning. Let's say we have a 5 for 0. It's a +5 for 0. Why wouldn't you play this?
No, absolutely.
This is what I meant before, because when you were playing Azalea before and you were playing like Nimblism, that is a +3, it was a good card in that deck.
Yeah.
This card is a +3 plus an on-hit effect that has 2 additional damage. So
yeah,
if you're removing those cards and adding these ones, the deck is better. That's all.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So I'm gonna move over to Read the Glide Path. Another one that is a bit of a pump effect, and I think this card was massive when it came out for Everfest for Azalea. I think this was one of the first times you actually seen her quite upgrade really well, because the opting is like it's very, very, very important opting, as you can tell, using her ability. So I'm not surprised to see this. Is there anything more to it than that?
Yeah, and it's in the same way. It's a +3 that it's perfectly aligned with what the decks want to do, and it has in the same way that Spire Sniping is a way to have dominate without having a face down card in your arsenal and use the helmet. You can just use the dealer, draw 1 card, and then use read the glide path. And if it's an arrow, you can maybe trade it with Azalea, which is fine.
Yeah, no.
And if not, it's a +3. Yeah. So it's a very versatile card. So
yeah, no, and
I don't think there is a reason for not playing it.
No, I agree. And Premeditate as well. I mean, I think Premeditate is just Ranger, right? It's just
Premeditate is is just insane. It's
Yeah.
in the same way of what I explained before. Uh, Before about the value is
Yeah.
this card is a +3 and 1 card. It's like Plunder Run, but better in Ranger. So
Yeah, pretty much.
it's
I think it kind of really does speak for itself. Now, the Deadeye. That's a really cool card. Another really cool, strong card that came out in the Dynasty set that Yuki Lee Bender shown off. I thought it was like whoa, crazy. Like it felt at first like a really crazy poison the tips sort of vibe to it. And I think it has done a lot of work in terms of being able to make a really threatening on-hit effect. But then at the same time, I felt like I just didn't see it enough in Dynasty. But I'm really happy to see that this has been thrown in. So, your thoughts on Deadeye?
yeah, the card is just maybe is the most versatile buff in the deck because first of all it has the big advantage of blocking 3, which may be really relevant because the rest of the buffs in general just block 2. It's a yellow card that you can pitch for just fixing the turn when you don't have a blue card, and it's a really good card for late game if you pitch it with blue cards and you want to do a big Azalea turn when you have cycled your deck and you're in the pitch stack. It's quite easy to do the on-hit with the new addition with the Crown Nest. So I think the card has a lot of. It's not necessarily the best card in the slot, but it does a lot of things. So it's you basically run it because it's a yellow card.
Yeah, yellow. Yeah,
And
yeah.
And it's a reason why Crow's Nest is so good. It's a really good addition because this card basically justify running that card.
Yeah.
That quiver.
No, I hear you. So we'll throw in Rain Razors as well. Rain Razors, man, cards is like it's crazy. Crazy card.
Big fan of the cards that doesn't have a limit. That is not the next arrow. It's all the arrows in this turn. Every arrow. But yeah, as I said before, it's a card that you can combine with Bolton Shots on a pitch stack. So it may be +4, +6. Yeah. And it's a yellow card you can pitch to use the Death Dealer and use the arrow. So it's a card that you are more likely to pitch at the beginning of the game, and you're going to push it and abuse it at the end of the game.
Yeah. No, that's fair. All right, and then I'll tell you what, before we go down to the cheeky Codex of Frailty, Ravenous Rabble, I think, again, is that really cheeky go again card and opt, right? is that
yeah,
sort of an opt, but it sort of isn't.
It's like ride the glide path. It's you only run 9 blues, so it's likely to be a 4 or a 3 go again for 0.
Yeah.
Maybe in this slot we could use another buff card for arrows. Maybe the new card. I don't know if you have this card. Access to this card is Scout the Periphery.
Oh, Scout the Periphery. Yeah. It's the generic 0 cost 3. Look at the top card of your deck, or look at their top card of their deck. But I don't think you would.
Exactly. This card is basically the same function, but it's a +3, or maybe this card may be a +4 for a card. But yeah, it's a way to make safer Azalea triggers, and it's also a way to deal with raw mine because there is a go again attack to kill 1 dragon if you need it. So basically, this slot could be both cards. Both cards work really well, but I have included the Ravenous Rabble because of that matchup.
Yeah,
because Romai is basically 70-30. So you need tools to deal with her.
No, absolutely. And then we'll move over to, quite literally, I think one of the strongest cards in the entire set, in my opinion, is Codex of Frailty.
Oof, this card. We have many things to say about this card.
Go.
How can we start with this?
All right. Yeah, go on. Lay it on me.
No, go ahead.
No. Well, I mean, it's basically a card that just goes, all right, not only am I going to just go and grab a card, like if you just block your entire hand up and this card is in the arsenal, right? Not an unreasonable thing to do. I'm going to play this as basically put any attack action card that I need in the time into my arsenal, and I get a ponder token and you get a frailty token. In fact, if you don't have an arsenal, Go find any card you want and put it in the arsenal, but you're just going to lose a card from your hand, right? So you just lost a blocking card. It's a blue. It's not blue. It's a yellow, bro. Like if you're any assassin or any ranger, I do not see any reason why you just do not run this card into your deck. Like just in general.
Yeah, it has a lot of combinations. First of all, as you said, this is a yellow, so it's what the deck needs in general, because you need yellow to use the Death Dealer and the arrow. And you have a lot of combination with this card, because if you don't have cards left in your hand, you're basically denying the drawback of discarding one card. You can use it as your last card and not discarding. So this is basically a draw one card, have something.
Yes.
It's insane. Everything that is free in card games in general is like, it's insane.
Yeah.
And yeah, it has a really strong combination if it's your last card with Drill Shot, because you can just block with the rest of your hand.
Yeah.
Use the Codex to bring Drill Shot back to the arsenal. Use it for 4. That is a 4 with a non-hit, and then draw one card and put it on your arsenal. you can basically use any card. So because you want to use Azalea and your helmet.
Yeah.
So it's like there's nothing bad in this card.
No.
And
apart from it blocks for 2, that's probably the fairest bit.
yeah, and now imagine if you need it, if you're playing against an aggro matchup, if you have just 2 cards, let's say you have the code on your arsenal, or you have 2 cards, okay? You have yellow one and you have the code. There's one combination you can do that is just pitching. One is yellow and you have the Codex. You can pitch the yellow, use the Death Dealer, even if you don't have an arrow, and you can use the Codex to bring back a remorseless or a red in the ledger if you want to buy time for the next turn. So it's a card that enables a lot of tempo plays during the game. You can also bring Bolt and Shot if you have Ring Razor's turn. You have just a lot of combinations. It's
just endless, isn't it? It's just endless. Any card you want in the arsenal, put it, or no, in the bin, put it in the arsenal, play it.
We can do is just if we use the Codex and they bring back cards like CNC, we can just use the Birch Grappler as our equipment, and because of the Frailty token, you can just block with 1 arrow that blocks for 3 on the boots, and just deny the CNC. So it's quite easy for that card to deny the drawback of the effect.
Yeah, no worries. Right, not the death whistle. Knock the death whistle. Really, really cool, important card for Azalea. Being able to just tutor any card that you want, reload the card into your arsenal, and then just basically not the death whistle, is otherwise known as find red in the ledger, trigger Azalea, and just go ham. Auto include, surely.
Yeah, it's pitch 3, blocks for 3, and it has an effect that enables the hero ability. So no reason for not using it. In general, the specialization that pitch for 3 are quite good if they block for 3. So
real. So let's go through the sideboard options. You got battering bolt, endless arrow, melting point, sink below, and you got the boulder traps. Interesting. Find out spring tunic. All right, and then you got 2 different bits of equipment, Birch Grapplers, and Brace of Determination. Really cool to see that. But let's go through with the arrows. Got battering bolt and endless arrow. What's your reasonings behind that?
Yeah, battering bolt is the only arrow in the game that goes for 6. So it's basically a pauper, and it's an arrow you can use to combine with all the buffs in your deck. So basically, this card will go into the deck if you're playing against Romai, or if you want to increase the amount of cards in your deck. If you're playing basically against Fatigue, against Alchemy.
Would you put this in against obviously a Dorinthia as well? If you did see a Dorinthia.
Yeah, for sure. It's an arrow that's basically every instant and reaction card have to be used to blocked, and if it goes for dominate, it's just insane the value you can have with this card. So Dorinthia could be quite good, but it's a card that costs 2, so it's not that easy to pay with this deck that has a lot of yellows.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So endless arrow, I'm intrigued. Now I know why this card is going to be put into the deck. 0 for 4 if it hits. It's basically snatch, put the card back into your hand, right? Why is this in the sideboard?
Yeah, it's a tech specifically designed to play against Romai
Right.
because it's a card that if it starts your turn in your arsenal, you can use maybe with the Snapdragons or either Birch Grapplers. You have a way to clean the board
Mm.
because you can use Endless Arrow with the Snapdragons, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Then use the Bullseye with a Bolton Shot and kill another dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Reload the Endless Arrow and use the Endless Arrow again. If you have Birch Grapplers, it goes back to your hand, and you can use the dealer to use Endless Arrow again and attack again.
That's
So
interesting.
it's a specific combination to try to play against that kind of defensive draw mines that fill the board with a lot of dragons.
Yeah, because in the deck tech as well that Yorgos did, he also included the try shot as well. Is that something you had a look into? So he had Death Dealer, Endless Arrow, Perch Grapplers, and he also put try shot in, so he can just and just so he can actually continuously keep using the Death Dealer like 3 or so more times. Is that something you tried out with it, or something that you're like, not sure?
No, I think we had the same idea.
Yeah.
It was just a coincidence.
Oh, fair.
But as you know, I'm a big fan of these unlimited effects, such as Endless Arrow or Rain Razor. So
yeah,
those effects that say no limit, it's quite you can explode it quite well. So yeah, it's this card is basically because if you were playing against those kind of heroes that build board, maybe in the future the new illusionist or if they have allies or something like that. I think it's a card that can be really worthy.
Yeah, no. So we're going to move on. Melting Point, another cool new Outsiders card. Gets +4, and if it has an aim counter, absolutely annihilate any ninja or assassin weapon. It just puts the fear of God into Katsu. So, but why did you include this? Obviously, do you feel like the one-handed weapon destruction is key?
Not really,
Oh, okay.
but
I mean, Bolt and Sabers would be sweating.
But it's a +4 and blocks for 3.
Yeah,
which is fine. As
I
said,
it doesn't actually get
with the dead eye, it's a buff that blocks for 3. That could be quite good. And it's also a card that say, okay, if you're facing against this matchup, you have basically won the game. So I like those kind of cards that say, okay, it's not a free game, obviously, because with one Kodachi they can play, Ninja can play the game, and without one of the weapons, the assassins can play the game, especially against this kind of decks that doesn't block. But you know, it's a card that it's a mind breaker. If you play it in the first round and you break one Kodachi, they're just crying on the floor.
I love it. It's a really cool include. So we'll go down some of the defense reaction stuff. Sink below, yeah, sink below is right. You know, sink below. Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah,
it's the best defense reaction.
Yeah, Boulder's Trap. Why?
This card, I like this card. It's quite tricky because it's a specific meta against the fatigue on him. Mm-hmm. First of all, it's pitch yellow, which is what the deck needs in general. It goes for 3, so it doesn't require a specific way to play the card.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're playing against all him and he swings you with the hammer and it has a +1, it's easy. Not to be fair, free to use the Bounder Trap. I put a -1 counter on the ramparts.
Oh.
So for the rest of the game, that card can be used because if they have a +1 and they have a -1, basically the shield doesn't block.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a way to prepare that matchup.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And I think it'll be one of those things that do you think that in time the olden player will just turn and go, which is probably a benefit. They just go, I just won't give it the puff. I'll just pitch a just an elemental attack just to swing for 3, which is probably actually doing a lot more work. You're playing it. You know what I mean?
I would be so happy if I see on the stream someone with a 0 cost 3 pitch and a 3 cost 3 pitch and say, okay, I go for 3. I don't want to have the -1.
Yeah.
And obviously, obviously this card is quite good also against Dorinthia because it has a lot of equipment and it's quite easy to block an attack with increased damage. So
yeah, no, absolutely. It'd even go for Viscerite. There's quite a lot. It's actually quite you think there isn't a lot of people that have this +1, and when you weigh it up, there's actually there's a lot more than you think, right? That always just get this little +1. Even Viscerai, man, with Shrill of the Skull form, just I've got a +3 attack. All right, cool. Lose your armor. Damn, it's really relevant.
Yeah, but the drawback of this card is that you need to draw it fast if you want to do the effect.
Yeah, otherwise they'll just use their armor up, and then it's just kind of worthless, right?
Yeah, they will use it fast, and it's not that bad. Obviously, the combination with the Boulder Trap with Drill Shot will force your opponent to block with equipment as fast as they can.
So let's move on to the Findel's Fighting Spirit Yellow. Now, I'm gonna make an educated guess here that it's a yellow, which is what you want, and it's
obviously.
a 6. So
and it's a 6.
And it's going to be used against Dromai, and it heals. Is that the best educated guess?
Yeah, it's also, if you want to increase the amount of cards in your deck, you need to make the yellow and the red. You don't want to add many reds to your deck, so it's a way. If you play against Holhim, you will also add this card because of the pitch. And yeah, obviously, if you want a popper, I don't think there's any other better than this one if you want to play against Romai.
Yeah, no,
it does everything you need. Blocks, heal, popper. It's an attack if you need it.
Yeah, no, the card's value is just great. So Birch Grapplers, again, to imagine 2 blocking, it's enabling a big part of your combo to deal with Dromai. Yeah,
and it's also necessary if you play against Guardian. Because they're going to run the CNCs, and obviously you need to have a way to not dying against your own Codex. And it's maybe you will need to block any on hit at some point. So yeah,
that makes total sense. And now we're going to finish with a really cool, and I love to see it, the Vermbrace of Determination. This is Oldhim? Oh, I mean, there's not what else.
Yeah, it's Oldhim focus. As you will see, I like building the decks to go against the worst matchups in general. And yeah, Oldhim, I think that if you combine the Boulder Trap with all the dominant mechanic and you use the Vermbrace of Determination, I think it's not that easy to fatigue Azalea at this point.
No, that's brilliant. That's really, really cool. No, I mean that's the whole deck. I mean, is there any matchups that you've got written up in your FaBrary list, or is it something that people should just play around with?
Yeah, I built one default matchup that will be basically adding the Symbilos and the buff and the melting point.
Yeah.
And there are just 2 specific matchups that are Dromai and Oldhim that requires a sideboard guide. And that's what I put on the list.
Yeah.
But the rest of the matchups, I believe that they can be played just with the Symbilo and the melting point.
Yeah, no, brill. So everyone go have a play of this, have a play around, take it to Teleshar, take it to your armories, and just have fun playing with Azalea. This is obviously Daniel's take on it with all the upgrades from Outsiders. Is there any sort of closing notes that you want to put onto this onto that deck?
It's just try to do a lot of reps with the deck. The deck is quite funny and not that hard to play now that you have bigger numbers. And I strongly encourage maybe the casual and the competitive players in both ways to make this deck better, because I think it's one of the best options in the game at the moment.
Awesome. Daniel, why did I say Daniel?
You can say Daniel, it's fine.
Daniel, thank you so much for taking the time of getting an Azalea deck tech and just playing it, figuring it out, and then taking the time to come and speak up with me again to show us what you have found with the new Azalea cards now in Outsiders. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks to you. It's a pleasure to be here, as always. So Thanks to you and everybody.
Well, I cannot wait to come and grab you again for another deck tech with another hero and another time. Dude, thank you so much and enjoy it, everyone.
Bye.